amigos? Espero que estén bien. Soy Nash y en este video vamos a hablar sobre el tema de aprender español y cómo lo podrías hacer, cómo lo hice también. What's going on, guys? My name's Nash. Thanks for tuning into this video. In this video, we're going to talk about the process of learning Spanish, how I learned in under 1 year, and how you could do it too. So thanks for tuning into this video. Maybe you're just starting out in your Spanish journey. Maybe you know a little bit of grammar. Maybe you don't know anything at all. You're just getting started from a blank state. All those are okay. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about my journey and how I got started. So I grew up in California. I grew up like maybe an hour from the border, and I was kind of familiar with some Spanish words, you know, growing up, but I never immersed myself into the language. I knew a couple words growing up, you know, the basics really, but nothing concrete. I didn't know how to form a sentence. I really didn't know any Spanish, but did kind of hear Spanish going up a little bit, going to school with a lot of Mexicans and stuff like that. Fast forward, I became a young adult. I moved to Texas, which has a large Hispanic population as well, and heard a lot of Spanish there. Also kind of picked up a few words. And then a very special person came into my life, and that special person was my fiance, who is primarily a Spanish speaker. She's not a native English speaker. She knows good English, but primarily is a Spanish speaker. And so for me, I took that as an obligation to learn the language fluently because her parents only speak Spanish. Her native tongue is Spanish. And so I really took it as a personal goal to learn Spanish fluently. So the first thing that I did in order to learn Spanish was I took here what you might all need, which is a Spanish to English dictionary. And what I did was I highlighted about maybe like 20 to 30 important words, and I put them on a flashcard, and I would just read those flashcards every day and get those words down. And once I had those words down, I would continue. I'd do another 20, 30 words. I'd do another 20, 30 words. And pretty soon, you know, I knew a basic amount of words, at least to kind of get things going a little bit. And also another thing in my background was I did take Spanish 1 in high school. So I kind of knew a little bit about the different forms, you know, who was speaking, kind of yo, tú, él, ellas, you know, etc. So I kind of had a basic understanding, but really didn't know much. And so what I did first was I started to research, how do I talk about myself in the present tense? Like, how do I say I'm hungry? Or how do I say I eat, or whatever? You know, once I found these verbs and stuff, how do I conjugate them? And so that was kind of the first thing I did, was just do the present tense, like just the present tense. Like I just want to say like I'm hungry or I'm tired or whatever. And so that was the first thing I did. I learned some of the basic verbs. I learned like the 20 basic verbs like estar, ser, hacer, all those, and just learned the basic verbs in the present tense for just the yo form. Then I moved on to the to form and etc., until I got the whole present tense down. Once I had all the present tense down, then I moved to the past tense, and I learned just the basics of the past tense, and just kind of had to say I was tired, you know, or I was working or whatever, and just kind of really got the basics down. And what I did during this time, once I had kind of had the present tense down, I was watching some YouTube videos, really just getting it down, is I then started working with a tutor. So I started working with a Spanish tutor that could teach me just the basic things and really help me with my vocabulary, help me with my pronunciation, because it's very easy for you to have bad pronunciation or bad habits if you're just learning on your own, because Spanish is different than English. And so the pronunciation is different. The words have different meanings sometimes, although there are a lot of very similar words. Things are different. Spanish is a different language, and so I wanted to get a Spanish tutor to guide me along the way. It also held me accountable. So that was really helpful for me. And what he started doing was he would give me these books in Spanish, like really, really, really easy, like baby step books. Once I kind of had a general understanding of the present tense, he'd give me, you know, basic books for me to read. And what happens when you read, you know, like a short story or something like that, is your mind really thinks about the words, and you're having to comprehend, you know, what is this word, and you're trying to figure it out, and your mind is working, and it's kind of relating in a reasonable way of reading a book. You know, also would be another example, a conversation. A conversation is another good way to practice. So what I did was I surrounded myself with Spanish speakers every day. You know, where I work, there's, you know, it's all Mexican people. So I really, you know, was always practicing with them and just chatting in Spanish. Even though I wasn't that good, I kind of knew like, hey, you know, I know I'm going to make a bunch of mistakes, but it's part of the game, it's part of the process. I'm just here to learn. And so kind of understand the first year pardon me, the first year, you're gonna kind of sound silly. You know, you're gonna be stuttering and you're gonna be using the wrong words, and it's okay. And you know what's really encouraging when you're learning Spanish is that people wanna see you succeed. They actually are excited to hear that you're practicing Spanish. They really do. If you tell a Mexican or whoever, you know, somebody that speaks Spanish, that you're practicing Spanish and you're saying words to them, they're gonna help you along the way. They're gonna really be excited for you. It's not a thing that they don't have patience for. They actually really like teaching you and speaking with you along the way. So I would recommend that for you, is start off, get a dictionary, write down some basic words, you know, look up hand or look up, you know, and two phrases that really helped me are ¿cómo se dice?, which means how do you say, and then also ¿qué significa? Those two phrases, if you write those down and you just, anywhere you go, no matter where you are, if you're surrounded by people that speak Spanish, just start pointing to stuff and then just say, ¿cómo se dice? And they say, oh, mano, or, you know, whatever. And you start learning things. And especially it's helpful if you are with somebody that, or you're speaking with people that know English and Spanish, because then they can translate for you. But you don't even need that. You can just point to things and just have them say it in Spanish, and then you practice and you practice and you practice. So that's really important. But I think if you can learn along the way by speaking with people every day, that's going to be the most beneficial. And if you can get a tutor as well, definitely going to help you, but it's not necessary. There's a lot of information on YouTube. You can learn everything on YouTube. I spent a lot of time on YouTube, but I just wanted that extra push. So once you've learned the basic present tense, I would go back to the past tense, because there's gonna be things that happen and you're gonna want to explain it to people, and so it's good to get a basic understanding of the past tense. Also, I would start learning phrases. Start, you know, listening to Spanish speakers. I think if you're at the basic level where you only know kind of the present tense and all that, I really wouldn't even focus on listening to, you know, Spanish content until you really have got a basic understanding of the past, present, and future. I'd work on the past tense, learn all those things, then start working on the future tense. Meanwhile, learning phrases, and there's different ways in which, so for instance, in English, we say it's hot out, but in Spanish they say it makes hot. You know, they say hace calor, and to us that just doesn't make any sense. It makes hot, just like it's weird, but that's just how they speak in Spanish. So just kind of learn some of those modums and those manners in which they speak. You know, the phrases, and just kind of how people explain themselves. And once you're moving along, start, you know, leveling up your books. Start increasing the difficulty of your books. Start speaking with as many people as you can. And what I would recommend, which I did multiple times, is go on a trip to a Spanish-speaking country. You may not be able to do this, but if you can, it's beneficial. Go on a trip to a Spanish-speaking country, maybe Mexico, maybe Spain, maybe Argentina, and just go down there for a week or two, a couple weeks, and just listen and observe and practice, you know, ordering maybe at a restaurant or something. And it's really going to push you, because when you come back home, you're going to realize some of the things that you maybe missed, because you're going to be surrounded by Spanish. It's going to be the only thing that you're consuming for, you know, long periods of time. And that really helped me, was taking trips to Mexico for multiple weeks and just being around people that only speak Spanish, and, you know, just listening to it all the time. Pretty soon you become accustomed to it. And within no time, you really start to improve. There's a lot of words that are very similar, and once you learn the grammatical ways in which you can put sentences together, that'll help you tremendously. Also, listening to Spanish music, putting in songs that you like, and just remembering the lyrics. I used to do that a lot. I would just go in my car, cruise around, and I would just play Spanish music and just remember the lyrics. Start looking up the lyrics, remembering those things, and pretty soon you have it down. And within one year, I would say, actually, within 3 months, I was conversationally fluent. Like I could have a conversation with you, I could understand you, and I could pretty much almost talk about like past, present, future pretty easily. Still, my grammar wasn't perfect. You could tell I wasn't a Spanish speaker natively, but you know, it was all right, and you could understand what I was saying. And that was really my first goal starting off, was just kind of be able to talk with people, chat with people, and understand them generally. And honestly, the remaining 9 months was really just improving day by day the little things, realizing, you know, when I make sentences, if something works or if it doesn't. And usually people will tell you, like, no, that doesn't sound right. and just really asking them questions, listening to the pronunciation. Another thing that's super, super important is the pronunciation. Like, you don't want to sound like a gringo. If you're talking, you don't want to be like, hablo español, espero que estem. It just doesn't sound good. So I think it's best for you to pick up an accent of someone, or some kind of speaker that you really like. And for me, I really am around a lot of Mexicans, so I kind of want the Mexican accent. And so anytime I'm talking to somebody, I listen to how they pronounce the words, and I literally just repeat what they're saying, and I have to try to do the same tone as them. And it really helps. I've had a lot of people tell me I have a pretty good accent. It's not dramatic or anything, and that's because I just simply repeat what I'm hearing. So if somebody they say a certain word with just a certain accent, I literally just try to repeat that the exact same, just honestly the same way that they're saying it. I say it over and over again. And that's another thing too, when you're learning words or you're learning phrases, just say them over and over and over again. Literally, I remember one time somebody told me, there was we saw a cat somewhere, and the cat just came up and took some food from us or whatever, a little crumb. And I remember someone said sin vergüenza, and I said, what's sin vergüenza? And that means without shame, or no shame. And so I literally, right after that, just started saying sin vergüenza, sin vergüenza, sin vergüenza, sin vergüenza. And I just said it over and over and over again until it literally was ingrained in my head. I'm not forgetting this now. So oftentimes when you learn a word, write it down in your phone or in a little notebook, and then start saying it, start using it as much as you can, start implementing it into your Spanish. And within 5 or 6 times of you repeating that word or that phrase, you're gonna get it locked into your mind. And so that's super important, is locking down the useful words in your mind. And starting off just slow and basic with basic words that you would use every day in English, like listen or speak or whatever. Understanding them in Spanish, learning the basic phrasing. How do you set up phrases? What's the grammar like? How do I set up a sentence? Where does the verbs go? All that. Once you learn all that, then you just start acquiring vocabulary, and you just start getting better and better. You start working on your pronunciation, and there's still so many things in Spanish that I don't even know yet. There's still so many verbs and so many ways to explain yourself. But now I'm at the point now where I can go down to Mexico, I can talk with a Spanish speaker and have a great time and get to know their culture so much better. And I'll tell you what, my life has improved tenfold from learning Spanish. So hopefully that helped you guys. Hopefully you kind of learned a thing or two. Keep going on your Spanish journey. Don't give up. You're gonna have hard times. You're gonna have times where you're like, dude, I don't know any Spanish. I don't feel like doing this. I've had so many days where I'm just like, dude, my Spanish is just not good, man. I feel, and you'll have days where you're up, and you feel like you know all this Spanish, and you're trying to prove, you're trying to show off to people and prove that you know Spanish. And there's other days where you mess up in front of people or something, and you just feel like ashamed, like, oh my gosh, I suck at Spanish, But just keep going. And honestly, understand that it's going to take like at least a year before you know pretty good Spanish. So be okay with making mistakes. Be okay with kind of looking funny and silly. Laugh along the way. Any Spanish speaker really is going to kind of push you. They're going to egg you on. They're going to really be happy that you're learning. So keep up your journey. Don't give up, guys. Comment down below if you're struggling with something in Spanish, or if there's something you've learned in Spanish that you want to share. Thanks so much for watching. Hit that subscribe button if you want to see more videos related to Spanish. Thank you so much. You all have a great day.